Hi, and welcome back to the Ninox Programming Training Series. In our last class, we talked about global functions. In this class, we're going to discuss global variables. Global functions were pieces of code. Global variables are values that we want to refer back to over and over again. Let's take a look at our product table and look at how we've defined cost, markup, price, tax, and charge. We enter the cost, we enter the markup, and that computes the price. Then we have a standard sales tax which is applied to the price to determine the final over-the-counter charge. Watch what happens when I create a new item. The tax amount of 10% and the cost markup of 100% defaulted. The tax rate is a formula. I can't change it. But the cost markup is a field. So if I wanted to override it at runtime to maybe 150%, I could do that. Then when I drop in the cost, we calculate the price, add 10%, and come up with the charge. These two values, the cost markup and the tax rate, are global variables. Let's look at how we create them and how we refer to them. To create global variables, I created a table called globals. You can call it whatever you want. And I have two fields, standard markup and sales tax, both numeric fields formatted as percentages. My standard markup and sales tax are defined as a global value, and any place else from any table, formula, function, or field, I can call or reference either one of these two fields in my globals table, and Ninox will know that I'm referring to and wish to utilize these numeric values. For global variables to work, there's a new function that you need to understand, and that is the record function. Here we see in this formula the sales tax of 10% defaulted. I didn't enter it in, and I can't change it. The formula is actually a reference to the globals table, and the reference is made using the record function. The record function takes two parameters, the name of the table and the ID of the record in that table that contains the values you wish to reference. And then after defining where I can find my global variables, I simply refer to the name of the variable that I wish to recall. In this case, sales tax percentage. It's important to understand that when I created my globals table, I created one record, and then here in the globals table, I specified that only I, the administrator, could delete that record or write to that record, which is to say edit the content, or create new records. Now the fact is, I'll never create another record here in this globals table. I always want one record, no more and no less. I don't want anyone to delete that record, and the only person who can change the global variables or write to that record is the admin. In creating this global variables table, I created the one record, and if I type in the ID function, I can see that it's record number 1. Since no new records will be added, it will always be record number 1 in the globals table that contains all of my variables. I then created a new view, a form view, and made that the only view of this table. So no matter where else I am in my database, when I go to globals, this is what I will see. The one record with all of my global variables that only the admin can change or update. Now when we used these two globals, we used them in two different ways. The tax is a formula, and the formula is simply a reference to this field in this record of this table. However, the markup, we use that a little bit differently because we want users to be able to override the default at runtime. So we used a trigger. We'll talk more about triggers in a future class in our training series. But a trigger is essentially a block of code that executes when something happens, when the trigger gets pulled. In this case, it's a table level trigger, and it gets pulled when a new record is created. And the trigger that gets pulled when a new record is created is that the cost markup field takes on the value of the standard markup field in record number 1 of the globals table. So let's again create a new record, and we can see that my sales tax of 10% has been pulled into the formula. The cost markup of 100% has been pulled into this numeric field, and if I wish to edit that markup, I can do so at runtime. Be sure that when you have numeric variables or global variables, that you control them if you're allowing them to be updated at runtime. For example, I might never want the markup to be less than 100%. So while I will allow users to override the standard markup of 100%, I will never allow them to override it with a value that is less than 100%. So if you set a global variable and you give people the opportunity to modify it at runtime, you may want to use these parameters of minimum and maximum value to control those runtime modifications. Global variables are all centralized in one table on one record. You can have as many as you want. Each one should have a unique name. And by using the record function, as we see here, we can refer back to those global values from any object in any table anywhere in our application. That's global variables. Our next few classes are going to focus on different functions in the Ninox language, specifically numeric, text, and date functions. I'll see you in class. Visit us at www.nioxis.com. Here you can learn about different Ninox solutions. You can get tech support through our Ninox Help Desk, which is available 7 days a week, or you can schedule private one-on-one concierge sessions for training, or we can help you build your application. And if you haven't done so already, sign up for our free Ninox Learning Lab. We do this every Thursday at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. in the UK, 6 p.m. Central European Time. These free hour-long sessions enable you to learn more about Ninox, features, functions, and solutions. We have open Q&A when you can get answers to all your Ninox questions, and you can meet other members of the global Ninox community. We look forward to seeing you there.